Welcome to this explainer. So, picture this. You come home after a long day, you sit down with a massive sigh of relief, and you peel off your shoes. But instead of feeling relaxed, you look down at ankles that look, well, noticeably thicker than they did when you woke up. Your calves feel incredibly tight and heavy. Honestly, it's almost like someone poured concrete into them while you weren't looking. It's a wildly frustrating, uncomfortable reality for so many people.
You know exactly the visceral experience I'm talking about, right? You take off just one sock, and right there, where the elastic sat all day, is this clear, deep indentation pressed into your skin. A groove that just stubbornly stays there for minutes before the skin finally smooths back out. And look, when you mention this tight, heavy feeling to a doctor, you usually get asked about your heart, or they just tell you to cut back on salt. It can feel incredibly invalidating when those changes literally don't fix the problem. Well, I'm here to tell you that what you're dealing with is definitely not a sock problem.
In today's explainer, we are going to completely demystify this swelling. Here is our roadmap. We'll decode the sock groove mystery, meet your lymphatic system, diagnose your specific swelling pattern, uncover triggers and fixes, and finally build a 5-minute daily drainage habit.
Let's jump right into part 1, the sock groove mystery, and why diuretics aren't always the answer.
Okay, let's address the elephant in the room right off the bat, the typical medical response you get at the clinic. It's usually a prescription for a diuretic, right? A water pill. But for a lot of people over 60, these do absolutely nothing for swollen ankles. They just make you run to the bathroom all day. Why? Because there's a fundamental misunderstanding of where the water actually is. The excess water causing your heavy legs is not in your bloodstream. It is pooled quietly in the tissue compartment around your ankle and calf. And diuretics? Well, they're designed to pull water out of the blood. They literally cannot reach the tissues. So you've been treating the completely wrong compartment this whole time.
Which brings us to section 2, meet your lymphatic system, your body's hidden conveyor belt.
To understand the real root cause for about 70% of these cases, we have to look at a vital secondary drainage network that, honestly, almost nobody ever bothers to explain to you. The difference between these two systems is pretty brilliant. Think about your blood system. It has a powerful automatic pump, your heart. It runs every single second of your life, whether you help it or not. But then you have your lymphatic system. Notice what's missing? There is absolutely no pump, zero. It relies entirely on your physical movement to function, acting exactly like a mechanical conveyor belt. And this is exactly why sitting down for hours is the ultimate enemy of this system. To be really precise here, your lymphatic system clears about 2 liters of pale yellow fluid every single day. That's like a large soda bottle's worth of fluid. This stuff constantly leaks out of tiny blood vessels to bathe your cells, picking up waste and dead bacteria. But to get back up to your core, it desperately needs your calf muscles. Every step you take, every single ankle flex, acts as a manual squeeze on these vessels, actively pushing that fluid upward against gravity.
So the crucial piece of the puzzle is understanding what happens as we get older. When you're 30, this system is highly elastic. But after 60, 3 big things happen simultaneously. First, the lymph vessels themselves stiffen up. Second, the internal valves that stop backflow, they begin to leak. And third, the connective tissue around your ankles loses its tightness. Suddenly, the math just stops working. Fluid seeps out into the tissues way faster than the stiffening system can pump it back up.
Let's move to section 3, diagnosing your swelling pattern. Is it venous, lymphatic, or cardiac?
Now, before we figure out your specific pattern, a super quick note. If your swelling is sudden, painful, hot, red, or severely impacts your breathing, that is a medical emergency. You need to see a doctor today. But for chronic, daily swelling, let's see which of these 3 patterns fits your symptoms. Pattern 1 is venous. This is often accompanied by varicose veins and a brownish discoloration on the shin, and it gets worse after standing. Pattern 3 is cardiac or renal. This comes with extreme fatigue and breathing trouble and definitely requires a medical workup. But pattern 2, lymphatic, is by far the most common for people over 60 dealing with evening swelling. It's soft, leaves a pit when you press it, often makes the top of the foot puffy, and gets worse in the evening but better by morning.
Let me tell you about Dorothy. She's a 68-year-old retired teacher who lived this exact timeline. In the morning, her ankles looked perfectly thin because lying flat all night allowed the fluid to drain. But by the afternoon, after hours of sitting and reading, the fluid pooled quietly in her tissues. Then, at 10 p.m., she'd lie down to sleep. Without gravity holding it all down in her legs, that massive reservoir of fluid would slowly flood right back into her bloodstream. Her kidneys would panic at this sudden extra volume, shift into absolute overdrive to make urine, and boom, she's forced to wake up at 2 a.m. and then again at 4 a.m., just utterly exhausted. That right there is the agonizing physics of nighttime urination. Moving right along to Section 4, triggers, tests, and fixes. Let's talk about taking back control of your lymph flow. The really good news here is that you can break this cycle, and it starts with some simple tests you can do right where you're sitting. Seriously, I want you to literally follow along and test your own legs right now. First up, the pit test. Press your thumb firmly against the bony ridge of your shin, about 4 inches above your ankle, and hold it for 15 seconds. Then let go and note how long the dent takes to smooth out. Next is the foot skin pinch. Try to pinch and lift the skin right behind your second toe. If it feels fused to the foot and you can't pinch it, that's what we call a positive stemmer sign. It's a very strong clinical indicator of chronic lymph saturation.
It's actually fascinating how our everyday evening habits actively sabotage us. These sneaky triggers are everywhere. First, it's not really the salt shaker on your table. It's hidden sodium in things like cheese and canned soup. Second, think about the hours between 7 and 10 p.m. When you relax in a recliner after dinner, that immobility creates the absolute worst conditions for overnight reabsorption. And finally, even that single glass of evening wine dilates your capillaries, which actually increases the rate that fluid leaks into your tissues. To put that sodium point into perspective, I just want you to remember this number, 4. Your body will hold on to approximately 4 cups of water for every single gram of excess hidden sodium you consume. No way, right? But it's true. Most adults over 60 are consuming double the sodium they think they are, meaning they are carrying around literal cups of trapped fluid right there in their legs.
So how do we support the flow? Well, it's highly counterintuitive, but you actually need to drink more water, not less. Dehydration makes your lymph sluggish. Water thins it out so it can actually move. You also want to add flavonoids from dark berries to help strengthen those blood vessel walls. Surprisingly, high-quality protein is vital too. There's a blood protein called albumin that literally acts like a magnet, holding water securely inside your vessels so it doesn't leak out. And magnesium, found in pumpkin seeds and almonds, helps maintain the smooth muscle tone of your lymph vessels.
And finally, Section 5, the daily drainage habit. This is your 5-minute evening protocol.
All right, we understand the mechanism, and we know the triggers. Now for the exact step-by-step action plan that finally solved Dorothy's swelling. We want to keep that conveyor belt moving from dawn until dusk. Before your feet even hit the floor in the morning, do 30 simple ankle pumps right there in bed. Throughout the day, try to do 20 seated calf pumps every hour. Then, just before dinner, take a quick 5-minute slow walk to really engage those deep calf muscles. But the absolute magic, that happens 90 minutes before you go to sleep.
Here is your powerhouse evening protocol. First, lie down and put your legs straight up against the wall for 15 minutes. Let gravity do the heavy lifting for a bit. While inverted, do some slow ankle circles. Then, critically, practice deep belly breathing for 3 minutes. Your main drainage vessel, the thoracic duct, sits right behind your diaphragm, so deep belly breathing acts as a powerful physical vacuum pump for your lymph. Finally, finish up with 10 gentle upward skin strokes from your ankle to your knee to manually push that fluid along.
If you do this properly, here's what happens next. Almost immediately after this sequence, you will need to use the restroom, releasing between 300 to 400 milliliters of urine. Yep, that is the exact fluid that would have woken you up exhausted at 2 a.m. But instead, you've proactively drained it while you are awake and in control. A real game changer. I love this because it completely recontextualizes how we view our aging bodies. Your ankles aren't betraying you. Your body isn't failing. It's simply a mechanical drainage system that stopped getting the movement signals it desperately needs to run. Give it that 5-minute work shift, and the difference will be something you clearly see in the mirror and definitely feel when you easily slip into your shoes. It's just 5 intentional minutes can completely change how you sleep and how your body functions. It really makes you wonder, what other simple maintenance are we neglecting? Are you ready to give your lymph system its 5 minutes tonight? Start the protocol, and then come back and tell us your age and where you're joining us from in the comments below. It is time to banish that sock groove for good and get your sleep back. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.